Hey Nintendo fans, and welcome back to Nintendo Fact of the Day. You know, one of the main reasons I even decided to expand from just Pokemon to other Nintendo franchises was so that I could talk about Legend of Zelda. To this date, it's been a few months, and we have no Legend of Zelda videos. So, in honor of the fact that it has taken me way too much time to make the first Zelda video, let's do a Zelda video on time. The concept of time, not making a deadline.
One of the most interesting story elements for the Legend of Zelda franchise is time travel. It's a commonly explored theme throughout many of the titles, beyond just the ones with the word time in them, and it's been a fascination of mine to analyze the different ways that time affects what happens in the Legend of Zelda universe. And, unsurprisingly for a fantasy game, they break the conventional rules of time travel all the time, leading for some crazy paradoxes. Today, we're going to learn how Link, in saving the world, breaks time itself. The Ocarina of Time's windmill is a curious place. Not just because it has insanely catchy music and a crazy phonograph man, but because it also presents a very specific type of time travel paradox. When you visit him in the adult world, he mentions how frustrated he was that a child with an ocarina played a magic song that made his windmill spin out of control. From him, you can learn the Song of Storms, the very song he claims ruined his windmill 7 years ago. But the real kicker is, as a player, you've never played this song. You need it as a child in order to progress through the game normally, but the only reason you're able to learn the song in the first place is because he's mad you've already played it. What? What happens in this scene is an example of a time travel quirk known as the Bootstrap Paradox, where it is possible to create information through time travel that has no origin. This phrase comes from the 1941 Robert A. Heinlein story, By His Bootstraps. There are a lot of time travel mechanics throughout this story, but the main paradox comes from a notebook. Essentially, a time traveler finds a notebook in the future, and uses its contents to learn a future language and rule the world. Eventually, the notebook becomes so tattered that it is almost unusable. The ruler then copies its contents to a new notebook and throws away the old one. In a twist of fate, the new notebook he writes is the one his time-traveling self will always read. To quote the story, his older self had taught his younger self a language, which the older self knew because of the younger self, after being taught, grew up to be the older self he was, therefore capable of teaching. But where had it started? What came first, the hen or the egg? By this similar logic, who wrote the Song of Storms? We'll never know because we're stuck in that same cyclical time loop. Another theory the Ocarina of Time entertains is the Multiverse Theory, that an infinite amount of universes exists, changing with every single different action possible at a given moment. While this theory can be applied to just about anything, it's often paired with time travel to explain how it's possible that you can go back in time and change the fabric of the world. Released in late 2011, the Hyrule Historia revealed the official Zelda timeline, which ascertains that the Legend of Zelda timeline is not one, but 3 separate worlds, all branching off of the Ocarina of Time. One following the child path after Link returns at the end of the game, one following the adult path after he saves the world and then vanishes back to the past, and one timeline where Link just dies. So time travel not only creates unsolvable loops, but it created one story so complex that the only way Nintendo felt it could cram it into a working Zelda universe was to split it into 3 different worlds. Now, I get it. The idea of cramming every Zelda game into one timeline is pretty ludicrous in my opinion, but the fact stands. When you mess with time travel, you're either breaking worlds or you're making worlds. Speaking of broken worlds, the next Zelda game released came with another new mechanic of time, the time loop. This concept is much simpler, just the idea that a period of time is repeated endlessly due to some form of time travel interaction or external force. Link is stuck 3 days in Termina endlessly until the world is either crushed by the moon or Link breaks the spell. This kind of look at time has also been seen in works like Groundhog's Day, By His Bootstraps, again, and Doctor Who, like a million times. Majora's Mask is special in that everyone in Termina has a preset pattern over the 3 days. You can alter this pattern by interacting with others, but at the end of the loop, everything resets back to normal. There's even a clause in the game that forces you to lose your accumulated rupees and expendables as you go back into time, as if you had never gotten them in the first place. Defeated temple bosses even come back to life each time you restart the timeline. All that said, despite Majora's surprising stability, it too brings up some paradoxes. For example, even though you lose rupees, you can still bring inventory items back in time with you. Death isn't always rewindable either. When Mikau dies, Link buries him with his guitar and gains his mask. But if you come back to where he would have been after resetting time, his grave is already there. Also, there's apparently a time-traveling banker that can carry your stored money through the dimensions. I've heard some people mention that he stamps you with a record of how much money he owes you, but wouldn't the stamp disappear if you're going back in time? You know what? This loop makes more sense to me than Groundhog's Day, and I still love that movie. Ultimately, it's just another way to look at the flow of time and some of the complications that can arise when traveling through the same short time span indefinitely. The next game to experiment with time came just a year later, the portable title Oracle of Ages. This game takes a unique stance on time travel in that actions in the past actively affect the present, and people in the present can observe the new changes as they happen. This is similar to works like Back to the Future, where you can essentially rewrite history, good and bad, through the power of time travel, but there is only one timeline with no parallel worlds. A new type of time paradox is explored in this game, the Grandfather Paradox. What would happen if you went back in time and killed your ancestor? Since your ancestor is essentially part of the reason you were born, some believe this would be an impossible time-traveling action. When the evil Vera takes control of Queen Ambi, who is Ralph's ancestor, Ralph is left with an interesting conundrum. He wants to stop at nothing to defeat Vera, but by killing Queen Ambi, he acknowledges that he will vanish in the process. He never gets to follow through on this, but the fact that he understood that he would undo himself shows again that this world is built under a single, changeable timeline. We also get another Bootstrap Paradox in Ages with the Goron vase. Link receives the vase in the present, a Goron family heirloom, by trading the rock brisket. But then, by traveling to the past, Link trades the vase for Goron aid. Because of this, a Goron in the past saves the vase throughout his family, and then the same vase will be traded to him in the present for a rock brisket. Once again, like the Song of Storms, time travel creates an object that has zero origin. The Goron vase is even more problematic because it's a physical object. In theory, it should endlessly age during this loop from the past to the present over and over again until it just disintegrates through entropy. And finally, we get Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword, which actually uses time travel a lot more than I remembered playing through it the first time. For starters, there are gates of time which open instantaneously between two different ages, functioning much like the theoretical space-time concept of the wormhole. But aside from simply slipping back and forth through time, there are also time shift stones, small entities similar to the gates of time, but that open only a small finite space as a window into the past. The Hyrule Historia hints that the Ocarina of Time itself was created from these very stones. Skyward Sword presents yet another version of time, predestination, or the idea that your course of action in the game has already been predetermined by fate. Much of this is told to the old woman, who at the end of the game is revealed to be Impa, the deity Hylia's aide from the past. Old Impa is wearing a bracelet given to her younger self by Zelda in the past at the end of the game, implying that she has already experienced and knows everything that happens in the past up to the present. Even her language seems to suggest predestination. Your arrival here was predestined many, many years ago. The spirit maiden you seek arrived here shortly before you, descending to this land in a shower of light. There's no doubting it, the gears of fate have begun to turn. Then things get really, really crazy. So paraphrasing this as much as I can, Zelda is a reincarnation of Hylia, the goddess of light. Zelda goes back in time and enters a deep sleep to keep Demise, the ultimate evil, sealed. Link eventually gets the Triforce and uses his one wish to destroy Demise. Cool wish, but Link is clearly not a man of time travel, because Girahim simply grabs the awoken Zelda, hops through the door of time, and goes back to the past to revive Demise in the past. Already, there's a little time quirk. Zelda went back to the past to seal herself, so technically shouldn't there be a second sleeping Zelda once Girahim brings the present one back? Either way, he ends up reviving Demise, who Link defeats, seals in the Master Sword, then travels back to the present, where the Gate of Time is destroyed. Now, here's where the questions start cropping up. If Link defeats Demise in the past, and then Impa gets the bracelet, and she always has the bracelet in the present, why can Demise be revived at all at any point in the game? When Link returns to the present, the Master Sword is there holding Demise. But if he had already gone and done it, then why isn't the Master Sword there to begin with at the very beginning of the game? The sword is not there when you visit for the first time, but Impa always has the bracelet. Then again, it's not like this Master Sword thing is the seal of a lifetime. The Hyrule Historia even states, the destruction of Demise was not the end of the battle, it was the beginning of a curse. A never-ending cycle of the reincarnation of the Demon King, whose hatred for those of the blood of the goddess and the spirit of the hero is everlasting. So you could argue that the reason Girahim is even able to revive Demise in the first place is because Link went back in time and created Demise's everlasting curse. Worst seals ever. But all that aside, there's still another thing that breaks the clean timeline. The Tree of Life. In the present, the Thunder Dragon is dead. So Link takes the Tree of Life seed, plants it in the Temple of Hylia's past, then takes the ripened seed from the future back to revive the Thunder Dragon. Here, you have clearly changed the world. In the world before you create the tree, Groose talks about how planting something there would be nice. But once you've created the tree, he acts like it's always been there. You changed the future by doing something in the past. You can have a game by these rules, which were pretty much the exact rules that Oracle of Ages played by, but you cannot also have an all-knowing Impa. Unless you believe that Impa has magical magician powers and made these two things invisible until you needed to see them when you needed to see them, oh no, I'm not gonna do this. Too much time travel, too many loops, too many theories. There's only one way out. Time, much like the gate of time itself, is a powerful but frail entity that can be easily broken. And if you're like me, sometimes it's when things break that they truly get your attention.
We're all out of time on this video, but if you enjoyed it and want to see more, you can click this button right here to subscribe to my channel and get alerts when my new videos are coming out. And in honor of today's Legend of Zelda video, I'm doing another giveaway through swagbucks.com with a Legend of Zelda themed prize. If you go to swagbucks.com, you can do things like search the internet, play games, get these points called swagbucks, and redeem them for things like prizes and, most importantly, gift cards. If you sign up with the coupon code WITZ, all lowercase, you will automatically get 70 free swag bucks, and if you earn 150 swag bucks over the next 2 weeks before March 24th, you will be entered to win one of 10 copies of the Hyrule Historia. I used a lot of this book and its artwork over the course of this video, so I thought what better way than to share the knowledge. Also, if you've signed up for any of my past swag buck giveaways, then you're automatically entered in this one, so who knows, maybe you've signed up for a past contest and all of a sudden you'll be getting one of these books just for participating. Anyway, I just want to thank you guys for watching today's Nintendo Fact of the Day, and I'll see you with the next fact.